move on to Chris Williamson, our next speaker. So, Chris.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much indeed. And I won't repeat because I guess most of the people in the audience today this afternoon heard my remarks this morning. So I won't go through again rehearsing the arguments why austerity has failed. But I remember Peter coming in the chair to a meeting in the House of Commons. I don't know if you remember this, but talking about the launch of the Labour Assembly against austerity. There were a handful of MPs there. And it's great to be here today sharing a platform with Caroline and Eslin speaking on this really important topic. And it's fantastic to now have a party which is dedicated to opposing austerity. And that certainly wasn't the case when he came to that meeting to talk about launching the Labour Assembly. And I think there was a degree of scepticism from some of the MPs in that room at the time. So we've come a long way. And it is a real privilege. I know Caroline was saying she was privileged to be sharing a platform with me. I feel privileged sharing a platform with you, I have to say, particularly from my humble origins as a simple bricklayer. So it's great to be here today sharing a platform with you and an esteemed economist like yourself there. And when I was recruited into the Labour Party 40 years ago by my predecessor, Philip Whitehead, who was this very erudite TV producer, I never thought that I would be following in his footsteps and actually representing that self-same seat as a Member of Parliament in my home city. And I hope one day I might be able to return, although I'm getting older, so I'm not long to try and get back. But anyway, we'll see. Let me just talk then about some of the issues around austerity and exposing austerity. And I just want to talk about this issue about migrants. And I think do no better than share a really excellent anecdote from Dennis Skinner. And some of you may have heard him give this anecdote himself. And he talks about going down the pit after the Second World War. And he said that there were a lot of Polish workers down the pit at the same time. He said there wasn't any issue, there wasn't any racism, there wasn't any kind of resentment. And the reason why, he said, everybody was in the trade union. And everybody got the rate for the job, and there wasn't an employment agency anywhere in sight. And those employment agencies have been the bane, frankly, of decent working conditions of working people in this country. And one of the things that I would like to see, and I heard Paul Mason making this point the other day, wouldn't it be great to see a return to the closed shop? So that people were automatically in a trade union, and then the trade unions could negotiate better terms and conditions. And it's no coincidence, is it, that Britain is now the kind of low-paid capital of Western Europe, because we've seen a demise in the trade union movement. And it's to my eternal shame, as a Labour Party member, that a former leader of our party used to crow about the fact, and these were his exact words, that Britain has the most restrictive trade union legislation anywhere in the Western world. What a disgraceful thing for a Labour leader to be bragging about and suggesting that was a reason why, people should invest in the United Kingdom, because it's easier to exploit the workers here. And that, of course, as you probably know, was Tony Blair. So there is a real need, obviously, therefore, for greater effort to be made into making sure that trade unions are recognised in the workplace and to see the trade union movement growing again. Because the consequences of not having a strong trade union movement aren't just in the workplace, but it does filter through into the social policies that we've seen this government, and it has to be said, previous Labour government to a much lesser extent, pursuing in relation to things like social security. And as an MP, and before that as a councillor, as welfare rights officer, and now, since I lost my seat, I've set up an advice centre out of my old constituency office. And we are regularly seeing people coming through the doors who are victims of this austerity agenda. People subject to benefit cuts, people subject to sanctions for the most flimsy of reasons. And there's a fantastic film, the Ken Loach film, I don't know if some of you may have already seen, of I, Daniel Blake. Recommend that you go and see that, because that exposes the absolute scandal, the disgrace in one of the richest countries on earth, that we can be so cruel and exploitative of working people just because they're poor. What kind of society are we where we allow that kind of thing to go on? And the I, Daniel Blake film, I hope, will have a similar impact on the national consciousness that the Cathy from Home sort of drama documentary that he did 50 years ago had on the housing crisis at the time. Regrettably, we still have a housing crisis, probably a bigger housing crisis today, so it shows you, Christ, I've only got 2 minutes to go, and it's just started. So massive problem in terms of benefit cuts, sanctions. But the other side of this, of course, is the benefit to the kind of super rich. Britain is seen as a tax haven, most sort of attractive place to come and stash your wealth. The top 1% have done incredibly well, but it's a totally unsustainable economic model for the economy to be based on the top 1% generating and consuming all the kind of growth. It just doesn't kind of compute, it just does not work. It might be great for them to spend £2 million on a car and £14 million on a diamond encrusted bra, but it don't really do much for the benefits of the economy. And there's some really interesting research done, I think it was earlier this year or might have been last year, by Danny Dorling. And of the richest 25 nations on the planet, Britain is currently the third most unequal. And what Danny says is that we're on a trajectory that if things don't change, by 2030, Britain will be the most unequal country on earth, more unequal than the United States of America. So it's a massive challenge for us to expose this. And when I was in the House of Commons, I used to do some work with the high pay unit, and they used to have this campaign, still do in fact, and you may have come across it, it's called Fat Cat Tuesday. And basically that is the day, it's the second day after the Christmas break, Christmas and New Year break, when the FTSE 100 chief executives have earned as much as the average worker in Britain earns in an entire year. And you can tell how bad it's getting, because when I first got into the House of Commons, it wasn't Fat Cat Tuesday, it was Fat Cat Wednesday. And so it's now gone to Fat Cat Tuesday, probably in another 5 years it'll be Fat Cat Monday, or Fat Cat, by lunchtime on Monday. It is a scandal, and we've got to do something about it, and it's really important, I think, that we challenge that. I'll conclude on this, and there's many other points I want to make, and maybe we can touch on some of these in the Q&As afterwards. But inequality is not an accident, it's a plan. It's a choice that has been made by the people that are running our country, the people with the power. And Citibank worked out how to make billions of pounds out of poverty. And that's why we have this explosion of payday loans and this growth in credit cards, and led to this kind of subprime mortgage problem, which actually led ultimately to the financial crash. So how immoral. They've seen poverty and they haven't looked at, well, how can we tackle this inequality? This is grotesque. In the richest nation on the planet, they said, how can we exploit that? How can we utilise that? How can we make austerity work for us to make even more money? How much bloody money do these people want? How much can they spend? It is crazy. And it's got to be exposed. It's not going to be exposed to the mainstream media. It's only us that's going to do that. The mainstream media won't do it because they benefit from it. It's owned by super rich, tax dodging oligarchs who speak for the right-wing super rich establishment. So by coming together, I'm being told to wind up, by coming together, I believe we can win people over. It is a very persuasive case. As I was saying this morning, it's kind of common sense. And this proposition that we have today that's held sway for far too long just is not sustainable, and it is utterly immoral, and it's up to us to expose it and offer a better, more hopeful alternative.